To Sakshi TV special immigration talk show. I'm your host Shivani Raj. Please note that Sakshi TV now has 4 immigration shows every week. On Tuesdays with lawyer Srinivas Kaveti, on Wednesdays with Prashanti Reddy in English, on Thursdays with Mr. Parvat Neni, and on Fridays with Banu and Indra. Please tune in to ask your questions. If you are an immigration attorney and would like to join our special shows, you can email us at usa@sakshi.com or call us at 866-725-7441. Before we begin the show, please note that the information provided on this show is not a legal advice and for general informational purposes only. Sakshi TV or its agents will not be responsible for the use of information. If you need any specific legal advice, you can contact the lawyer directly. Mr. Kaveti needs no introduction, but if you need consultation, you can definitely log on to Kaveti Law Firm. They provide information and insights for which you do not have to be a lawyer to understand. His main office is headquartered in New York City and has been a number one choice to their clients for his new approach to law. So without any further delay, let's welcome Mr. Kaveti Garu on our show. First of all, before we get onto the topic, I want to wish you a very happy birthday, Kaveti Garu.
Thank you. Thank you, Shivani.
I hope you have a great year ahead. But again, let's get started with the topic. Unfortunately, the topic that we're talking today is not that, it's a very emotional topic that we're going to get. But before that, something that you want to say to the viewers watching the show?
Yes, I know we choose to talk on an emotional topic. Crime victim fund, because people who are victims of a crime in America, can they get any money? I know we're not looking at money. We can't, compensate the families with anything. It's an irreparable loss. But, just by, when they lose their families, can they get some compensation for their dependent? It could be mother, father, or spouse, or anybody else. So, it's a very emotional topic. Yes, as you readily said. So, let's talk on, crime victim fund. What is a crime victim fund, and who is qualified? Who can apply? How they can apply, and what are the circumstances? I guess those things we can talk.
Mr. Kaveti Garu, let's get on to the topic. So first of all, it would be great if you can give an introduction about what exactly is a crime victim fund. So we are going to be talking about this specific topic. So can you just give a little background about what it is?
Yeah, any person in America, there is a fund by the federal government and by the state government, and even by the city sometimes. If you're a victim of a crime, whether it can be a misdemeanor or a felony, if you're a victim of a crime, then you can apply, or your family can apply for that fund. That is called Crime Victim Fund. And this money is from, it's kind of a taxpayer's money. What happens if you get penalized in the court, if you're serving sentence, or if there's a restitution of money by the government? For example, somebody does any crime, and they'll be in prison, and there'll be a fine also. So people end up paying fines, and those fines will be collected, and that is the fund which goes to. It's called Crime Victim Fund. It is not from the taxpayers' money. It is from the collected from the criminals, or some even people are, committing violations or, misdemeanor or felony. When the courts, when the government collects the money from them, that money goes into that fund. There is about $2 million are there in a federal victim fund with the federal government. And of course, state government has its own fund, and the city as well. So people who have been victimized, it's like a support for them, and even for their families. Let's say they have a physical disability, somebody got hurt, and they can apply. Somebody lost their family in a crime because mother, father, or sisters, siblings, brothers, sisters wife and children, anybody, they're going through an emotional trauma. So they can also use that money, and it's compensating the family basically. So that's called a crime victim fund. Not many
Yes.
people know.
Yes. So, Mr. Kaveti, yes, we actually decided to do this specific topic because of a reason. Because there was a student from Ohio who was fatally shot during, when he was getting robbed. His name is Saish, if I'm not wrong. So, can you enlighten a few more details about this specific incident that happened to the viewers?
See, the first of all is when students come to America, the first thing students must understand that they don't have a right to work outside the campus. They only have a right to work in the campus, in the college campus or a school campus for 20 hours a week. And if they're working outside the campus, which most of them, they do work outside the campus just to pay their, house allowance, house expenses and travel and food. Sometimes they even spend money college fees. So the first question is, does the immigration law allows them to work outside the campus? The answer is no. But however, the students, they work in the stores, gas stations and other places, even Indian restaurants. Are they allowed to work? The answer is no. Did the immigration authorize them to work? The answer is no. But however, people work for cash. That means it's an unlawful employment. They're breaching the immigration law. But in the real world, they do it. Let's say if they're working outside the campus and if they get hurt or if they are shot dead and they're the victim of a crime, are they entitled for any sort of compensation? So, they're not entitled for workers' compensation. The workers' compensation is for people who have an injury through work related, because they're not authorized to work outside the campus. If these guys are working unauthorized without the USCIS authorization, can they get workers' compensation? The answer is no. Every state has its own workers' compensation. And the second thing is, employers also has employers' liability insurance. Some industries, there are some dangerous industries. Let's say if you're working in related with fire, if you're working in some melting shop, let's say in a factory, if you're working in a factory. So are we entitled to work in a factory? But people do pick up jobs like packaging jobs and everything, students. And if you get hurt, can you get compensation from employers' liability insurance? Maybe no, because we have to see the compensation cover of the employer. So if the employees, if the workers are not entitled for workers' compensation, if they're not entitled for the employer's liability insurance, are there any other insurances? Sometimes people also subscribe for a life insurance. If anything happens, and sometimes medical insurance. Can they get those benefits? Depends upon the policy which they take. But what will happen if the workers' compensation doesn't cover, employer liability insurance doesn't cover? What will happen if anybody gets hurt? So that's a big challenge for these students or even unlawful aliens in the country. Sometimes people pick up second jobs, even H-1B guys. These days they are driving a cab, things like that. You get hurt in a motor vehicle accident and somebody is driving a car without an insurance or without a license. What will happen? And you're subjected to a crime as a victim. So can you get any compensation? Yes and no. So this crime victim fund will allow them to claim some money for, compensating certain expenses like medical expenses, some pharmacy, or even some money for if they're not employed and stuff like that.
Yes. First of all, Mr. Kaveti, let's just talk a little about the specific incident that has happened in Ohio. We just got information that his parents are here. So my first question was, do they get any kind of funeral compensation during this whole process?
Yes, the federal criminal victims fund, they have a cap of $10,000 for funeral expenses. Yes, the family can claim that for the funeral expenses, $10,000. That's the first thing, and they can also apply if their person has died from the crime. The family can also apply for compensation. It's not a compensation; it's a victim fund on a humanitarian basis. They will give it. The maximum cap is there's no maximum cap. It depends upon the age and other criteria of the person died. I guess 50,000 they can get dollars.
Yes. So, what is the maximum amount of compensation that the family can get? Can you give a specific or like a proper approximate number?
See, there are a lot of factors dependent, because if you're a young child or if you're working and if your future that you will be earning 20, 30 years, and there are so many factors they keen. Are you permanent resident? Are you a citizen? And, where's your family? How many members are they in the family? Is it old parents? Because in this case, if you see the Saish case, what I was told, actually, I just wrote an article in Namaste Telangana to let the family know that our firm would help. And I just got a call from their family. Somebody saw my article and they called me. Actually, the dead body is still in America for the Sai Shays, and they're sending the Tana, I guess. Tana guys have helped for funeral because it's a big process. They have to send this coffin to India. It comes in the plane. There's so many certifications and other things. So now, I was told that this boy's father also died recently, and he's the only, breadwinner of the family, and he's a student, and he had a lot of, goals and dreams. And I was also told that, somebody applied for his H1 and his H1 got picked up, and he was excited, and he even applied for a resignation of his, gas station job, petrol pump job. And in the night he works. If you see, Shivani, most of the students when they're in America, they become desperate to pay the school fees. Why? Because, when these guys they come to United States, the agents, the education consultants in India, all these companies which are there like Y-Axis and so many companies, when you approach, they will tell them, oh, you just take one semester's fees and you can work there and you can make money and pay the other semester's fees. Because the unfortunate thing is because they get wrong information and they all come to US with maybe one semester fees. Once they come, they're obligated to pay the fees first semester once you enroll. And after that, they don't have no money for boarding and lodging and travel. And they're all worried about the next semester fees because semester is only 3 months in the US. So within 3 months, they have to get their fees ready. And when they call their family, the family says, because the agent said that you have to pay only one semester fees and you can work and make the payment. Now, mobilizing $5,000 to $7,000 again, 5 to 7 lakhs again within 3 months, 4 months time, after all these airfare expenses, paying the fees, paying for the accommodation, everything. There is initial, setup costs for anybody. You come and settlement funds. So within 3-4 months, again, you have to mobilize funds for paying the school fees. That's not easy. So most of the students, they end up working in gas stations in the night. They pick up jobs in Indian restaurants. They pick up jobs in shops. Whatever they get, they try to work. But now, when things like this happen, this boy Saish had a lot of dream, and the guy was working, and I think in the midnight, some people came and they shot him dead. And the whole dream is collapsed. And his family, his mother is only there alone, and father is not there. I think he only has got one younger brother. So what will happen in such circumstances? People are trying to mobilize some money here. What will happen? They will, mobilize, Tana or Arta or Telugu people. They will chip in some money. They will send the dead body to India. But what will happen after that? The family, those who have sent these guys to America with such a big dream, all shattered. And especially the Saish mother, I don't know whether she's educated or not. She must be old. How to support herself now? So it's a big challenge, I guess. So, I have done some research, and we have helped a couple of clients of ours, those who got those who were victims in in crime. Like we just had a client. He was opening up a store, a hate crime, and one white guy comes and slashes his throat with a knife, and it was recorded in the camera, but the police are still investigating. So we have applied for a crime victim fund. So our firm do help such guys to get some sort of a help. It's in India we call them ex gratia payment. It's not like that here. It is not any ex gratia. The government is not paying from their taxpayers' money, but there's a fund which is created in the city by the municipality, and they also have a fund for the state. State also maintains, and even the federal government maintains a fund that's called a crime victim fund, where you can apply. And you can apply. You can also look at it in online. They can find out.
Yes. So let's talk about the workers' compensation fund. Will the family get benefited anything, from any sort from that specific fund, Mr. Kaveti?
Right. Workers' compensation is mandatory. If you see, it's in a common law statute. We have it in India as well, and England and America. Workers' compensation, to claim workers' compensation, the definition, the word itself is you have to be a worker. How do you come under the definition of worker? That means you have to have a right to work in the country. Number one. Number two, most of these employees, they're working for cash. That means they're working unlawfully because the employer has not put them on payroll. That means you're not legally working in the country. Because as it is, students are not authorized to work outside, so they don't fall under the definition of workers. So unfortunately, the workers' compensation insurance doesn't cover, and they will not get anything from workers' compensation fund. But if you're an unlawful alien, let's say if you're an unlawful alien, what happens if you have a social security number? And many unlawful aliens work in America in factories. They're on the payroll. Means the employer has hired you and he's paying you payroll. That means you're paying taxes. So in such circumstances, workers' compensation does cover. But most of the times, because students are not paid on a payroll, what does it mean? That means they're not working legitimately. So when they're not working legitimately, they're not paying, they're not deducting the payroll taxes, they're not paying unemployment insurance, and FICA, which is Federal Insurance Contribution Act, which is Social Security. When you're not paying all of that, that means you're working unlawfully. So workers' compensation insurance would make an objection saying that you have hired somebody for cash, and you're not put him on a payroll, and they're not entitled to work in this country. The workers' compensation does not cover. It's a very complex area. I mean, it's not the one straight question, you see. But this is the analogy. And most of the time, there are lawyers who specialize in workers' compensation claims. The immigration lawyers who practice immigration law, they don't do much. I mean, our firm has a workers' compensation lawyer. That's a reason. And one of the lawyers also became a judges in workers' comp. So our firm handles that, so we understand it better.
Yes. Let's talk a little about the employer liability insurance. Mr. Kaveti, what exactly is that, and in what ways can the families or the victim's family can get benefited from it?
See, employer liability, let's say if you're working in a restaurant, right? And, somebody, threw a banana or a egg, and there's a water, and you slip and fall. When you slip and fall, because that premises is covered by the employer's insurance, and because you fell, slip and fall, you can claim employer's liability insurance from their insurance company. See, in America, if you see, even a private apartments or a commercial, premises, when you take a lease of a premises, most of the landlords, they will ask you for an employee's employer's liability insurance. That means in certain circumstances, if anybody comes and falls, let's say there is a snow in front of your business, in front of your enterprise. Let's say you're running a restaurant or a car dealership or some store, and there's a snow in front of your store, and you put a salt and it becomes an ice, and you slip and fall. So the employer's liability insurance covers. You cannot say, "Oh, you fell on the street, you fell on pavement." No, in front of your store, you're liable, even in front of a private house as well. This country, they make you liable even if you fall outside your business premises, if you're an invitee, business invitee. Yeah. So let's say you're going into a shop to buy a coffee on a winter day, and there's a snow in front of the shop, and you fell in front of the shop. You slipped with the snow, and you fell in front of a shop, and even though it's a public street or just a pavement in front of your shop, it could be maintained by municipality, because the law says because it is in front of your shop, it is the employer's or it is the shop owner's responsibility to keep the place safe for the invitees, business invitees. This is the terms which are used in the law. Let's say you opened a shop and you're selling grocery and you sell coffee. So I'm walking into the shop to buy a coffee in a winter day in the morning and to buy a newspaper, and I fell. So you can't say, "Oh, you fell on the street. I'm not liable in front of my shop." So you're liable. So the landlord asks you to buy an employer's liability insurance. In such circumstances, that insurance covers you. And sometimes there could be a fire as well. There could be a fire accident. Then you can claim. So it's limited to that, not to it could be to the employee or it could be to the invitee, business invitee.
Yes. Mr. Kaveti, I don't think so up until now we have ever, we spoke about the crime victim fund. So let us talk about how can one apply for this federal crime victim fund? How do the victim's family apply for it?
Well, first of all, you need to get the police report that there was a crime, and you have to make certain applications, and you could. Because you have to establish that you're the dependent family members. And once you apply, and they will process it and they will give it to you. And most of the times, if your family is overseas, they have to hire maybe lawyers or authorize somebody, maybe a specific power of attorney. And you should be able to fulfill the criteria of crime victim funds. If you go, you can visit a website, state or federal, and there are certain criteria to to fulfill. If you fulfill certain criteria, yes, you can get it. They will process and give it to you. They'll give you a check. So most of the time they give it to dependents. And if the dependents are not in America, if they hire some law firm and the law firms get the check and the lawyers can disperse that money to the clients.
Yes. And I think it's very important for you to understand that compared to India, the US government is very different. It has a state government and a federal government. So in this way, a lot of laws are also divided. And I think in that way, this compensation fund is, I think, if I'm not wrong, is different for state and federal. So how can the victims apply for the state crime victim fund, Mr. Kaveti?
See, if you Google it, every state has its own God victim fund. Even the cities, some municipalities, many municipalities, they also maintain the victim fund. They could check it up online, and they can apply for the city or state or even federal. The crime victims' family can do it, and even the crime victims can do it all over the country. Any crime. Sometimes, there is even battered spouses. Women can also apply because sometimes these spouses are subjected to a severe crime. Sometimes the husbands, they attack the wives, or even wives attacking the children, or husbands attacking the kids. If you're a victim for a crime, you can apply. And it's not just restricted to that,
Yes. And finally, Mr. Kaveti, a lot of students, they start working in gas stations and they do odd jobs, even without the work authorization from the USCIS. Can they still get this compensation if anything happens, God forbidden?
Yes, they can apply for this. That's what I said. It doesn't come under the workers' comp or anything, but you could still. Many times people, when they come to United States, they also do a life insurance back in India. And, many times the parents, they also come to America to visit their children. Sometimes they'll come for graduation ceremony. And many times when they also do an insurance before they come to America, life insurance. And, things like that, you can still apply if you're a crime victim, even back in India as well. Or sometimes people also come here, they also buy insurances, life insurances, medical insurances. There are certain products, by the different insurance companies that you can also buy for a medical insurance, and that will also have a life insurance as well in bundled up. It's like a package. And if you check up with the insurance companies, they will let you know. So in that circumstance also, if anything happens, you can also claim. So, one has to do some research in what they're getting into. But Crime Victim Fund is independent from all of this.
Yes, I think that is for all for today, Mr. Kaveti. We did cover a very important topic. I don't think a lot of people have covered it yet. But thank you again for tuning in. Thank you again to the viewers for tuning in. You're watching Sakshi TV with me, Shivani Raj.
Thank you, Shivani.